When we're at a crossroads of hard choices, usually, we will either continue to plummet to the bottom of the bottomless pit that sin always throws us down into, or we will come to our senses, which is exactly what the scripture tells us that this young prodigal did.
The tough news in the good news is that we all must do that. We must come to our senses and humbly confess that we're broken. Sometimes it's not even a profound act of faith, just a simple admission on our part that God honors because we've humbled ourselves.
You see, as Jesus' story of the prodigal continued, we find the broken young man lying hopelessly in the mud, starving, staring at his well-fed pig clients.
There, in the slop, he admitted to himself, even at home, the hired servants have enough food to spare. And here, I'm dying of hunger. I will go home to my father and say, Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you. I am no longer worthy of being called your son. Please take me on as just another one of your hired servants.
The young man was finally beginning to see himself as God saw him, broken and in need. So as he made his humble confession, Jesus tells us that the prodigal stood up and began to walk towards home. His confession led him to take the steps only we can make towards God's grace.
We invite you to take those same steps too. Today we celebrate the grace of God by Jesus' death on the cross that paid the penalty of our foolish mistakes and sins. Today we celebrate and remember his death by receiving communion at the Lord's table.
For some of you, this may be the first time, or the first time in a long time, that you've come up to receive the bread and cup that symbolize God's body being broken and his blood shed for us. Don't worry about your hesitance, or the time since you first willingly received it. Come up, come home, make your way just as the humbled son did.
We encourage you to stand up and do what we all must do. See ourselves as sinners who have been offered God's great love and forgiveness. As the music begins, please make your way to the middle aisle and come up and reveal your humble gratitude for God's gift of grace.
Take both the cup and the bread back to your chair, and we will all receive it together after the pastor comes up. You can now stand and come receive communion.